given that you have a lot more land to work with on this new farm, do you ever see a time when using cover crops would be advantageous? Why or why not? Great question, Kirk. Yeah, actually, and I have thought about it with the new farm. I don't know. Like I don't think I'll do any mid-season cover crops, but I might do some fall cover crops. We'll see. You know, it's the way I see cover crops is with a market garden. If I have access to good compost, there's not that much incentive to do cover crops. So both things require inputs. I got to get cover crop seed from somewhere, or I got to get compost. So the reason a lot of people want to do cover crops is there's a plethora of reasons, but the two primary reasons that I see is, one, the cover crop keeps the soil structure in place for when you get fall and winter precipitation that prevents soil erosion. And two, when you cut, mow, or turn those cover crops back into the soil, you can be putting organic matter back in, so there's benefit there. The problem with them in a market garden concept that I say is that, or that I see, is that it takes work to do them. So if we're comparing it to just adding compost, with the cover crop, I got to spread that seed. So that's an action. You know, you don't necessarily have to do the same amount of bed prep to plant that seed than you would another crop, because you can kind of just broadcast it on there. Some people will just run an earthway seeder or a jang seeder with the bigger hopper through. So it's fairly easy, but it is a step, right? And depending on how well you want to do it, whether it's broadcasting or direct seeding, one may or may not take more work than the other. So you got some work there. Then to get the benefit of the organic matter in the soil, you got to mow that crop, which is usually done with a flail mower. And then you may or may not till it into the soil. Some growers will just flail it and then tarp it. Some growers will flail it and then till it in. You know, there's a variety of different things you need to do. So you can see that there's a few steps involved in doing that to get the same outcome as just adding compost to the soil. So that's why I said at the beginning, for me, it pretty much comes down to, if I have compost available, I'm just going to get compost. If I don't, well, then I have to go get the seed for the cover crop, because I don't save that seed. That seed isn't necessarily locally available. So I would say, all in all, adding compost to a beds is just more preferable. I would say, again, this is just my opinion. There might be some other growers out there that would have a different opinion. Because in a market garden context, 30-inch bed, you know, small-esque farms, you know, 5 acres or less, you're doing beds, cover crops don't make sense. Where cover crops do make sense, mostly, is larger scale farms. So if you go to the any of the content that we had with Andrew Manns at Manns Organics, that scale of farm, tractors and all that, that makes sense to use cover crops with, because that's easier than doing compost. Because spreading compost over 500 acres does not economically make sense. It's does not make sense whatsoever. Spreading cover crop seed over 500 acres can make sense. So that's the thing. I would say overall, my farm isn't big enough as a half acre to justify the time and resources and action steps to justify doing cover crops.